Welcome everyone to another episode of the Shaman's Way podcast. As always, this episode comes from the teachings of our amazing friend and shaman in residence, Kriket. We hope you're enjoying these podcasts as much as we enjoy making them, and I'd like to take just a moment to ask you if you would please leave us a rating and a comment in iTunes or whichever podcast player you're listening to us from. Giving us a rating and sharing this podcast with others is the biggest way you can tell us that you like our show. Now, without further ado, on with the episode.
Hi everyone, I am excited that you are with me. I have a topic which is near and dear to my heart, which is the Black Jaguar. I wanted to talk a little bit about the differences and the similarities between the words jaguar and panther. Panthers are not a separate species of cat, but they usually refer to leopards or jaguars with a rare condition called melanism, which makes the coat appear black. Now, these cats still have the rosettas of other leopards, but they're usually extremely difficult to see against the black coat. There is also melanism in tigers and lions, but that's even more rare. It is more commonly found in leopards and jaguars, and the term panther is most commonly used in reference to melanistic leopards. Melanistic jaguars are often simply called black jaguars, and in literature, they're generally, or they can be referred to as panthers. What I've noticed in the ever-changing lexicon of our world we live in, it seems as though black panthers are used as a rather generic term to refer to not only the black jaguars, but also the black leopards. The jaguar is really what I'm talking about this evening, but I'm going to make very broad sweeps with respect to the word Black Panther, because I'm going to talk about the overall animal, the Black Panther. But to me, the one that I work with in my spirit world is the Black Jaguar. So the jaguar, whether you know this or not, is the largest cat in the Western Hemisphere, and it is the third largest cat in the world. So it comes after the lion and the tiger. It also is one of the 4 roaring cats. The jaguar, if you have ever gone to YouTube or watched nature series which refers to or specifically talks about the jaguar, you'll notice that its roar is really more of a series of hoarse coughs. It's often confused with the leopard, but the jaguar is a stockier animal. It's usually larger. It has a broader head, shorter legs, and tail. The color is generally tawny yellow with dark spots on the head and neck and dark rings on the body. Inside the rings, there is usually a dark spot. This is the primary difference between the spots on a jaguar and the spots on the leopard. Our relationship with the feline species is remarkably. When I first started to look into the relationship between the big cats and our life was to work with the medicine wheel, the March moon, the big winds moon. The spirit keeper for that moon is the cougar. However, I wanted to work with the jaguar because I have more of a relationship with the jaguar. So it was in a circle setting that I did my initial research into the relationship, the historical relationship between the jaguar or the feline species and us. I discovered that in Turkey, what we now know as Turkey, as early as 4000 BCs, our ancestors left their traces in artistic depiction of shape-shifting. I know it's probably not a big stretch for you to think of, the Black Panther, the Black Jaguar as being a shapeshifter. I think we often assume that mythology of a black creature, the black wolf, the black raven, the Black Panthers as being that which is associated with the other realms and henceforth more likely to be a shapeshifter. We have leopards. I've seen there are statues as well as there are pictures that we have left behind where leopards are supporting women in childbirth. Statues of goddesses draped in leopard skin and dancers surrounding her. So the shamans in trance become half human and half cat, blending. And so again, we come with this shaman's ability to travel between the worlds, transformation. Mesoamerica was the home to very ancient shamanic peoples, one of whom were the Olmec. The Olmec peoples have a very long and deep connection to the jaguar. Theirs and other artworks left behind, they really displayed the shamans transformed or depicted their shamans transformed on ritual occasions into the amazing spiritual animal, the jaguar. To the Olmec, the jaguar was a symbol of supernatural forces, not just a simple animal. This was an ancestor and a god. The Aztecs and the Maya also regard the jaguar as a symbol of power, strength, and beauty, giving to its deity status. Some of the Maya art on the walls and cave murals and on the vase, the jaguar god of the underworld, or Light, the jaguar god of the upper world. So in this case, I did most of my research by trying to read the Popol Vuh, and I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that, but it is the mythology of the Olmec peoples. And what they wrote was that, or what they believed was that the jaguars were regarded as necessary beings, without as much value judgment or labeling as their aspects of good or evil. They were associated with the Creator as his helpers in forming the world, and they helped promote the changes necessary for the continuity of the world. The jaguar's skin is symbolized as the night sky. Even among the Amazonian societies, the jaguar's shining, reflective eyes were thought to be a connection with the spirit world. When I was studying the Popol Vuh with the spirit world, there is a land called Shambhala. And Shambhala is the underworld for the Mesoamerican peoples. Well, some of them, the Olmec peoples certainly. And in that regard, Shambhala was the domain of the Black Jaguar. And the Black Jaguar, again, is referred to as the guardian of the underworld. Mesoamerica represents a really interesting and has some incredibly complex shamanic traditions. The jaguar was referred to as a Nahal. That is an animal closely related to or have a relation to a certain man or woman, that if the animal dies, the man will also die. We've discussed this before. It's very common in the diagnosis or the treatment of illness to retrieve a person's power animal. When we have very first time people coming in for soul retrieval work or to do work with shamanism, the very first thing we do is we connect with our power animal. A common form of healing is to enter the spirit world and return your patient's power animal. The jaguar was one of the most powerful spiritual coessence. I'm not quite sure how else to put it. They were the spiritual coessence of the priests and the rulers. And this coessence may have been invoked through ritual or trance. So the jaguar protects the shaman from evil spirits. And while they move between the earth and the spirit realm, they're also very connected to their shamans. I have read some accounts of the Amazonian shamans. I can't remember specifically which tribe it was. But they would shapeshift into their jaguar. And as the jaguar, they would travel throughout the forest looking in on their neighbors or their enemies. And oftentimes the stories would go that the shaman would appear at the edge of the village, and lo and behold, that night the jaguar would appear in physical form at the edge of the village, and henceforth, if there was someone that the shaman was trying to target, that person would often end up very dead from a jaguar attack. The much like discussed, like when we've talked about some of the other aspects of shape-shifting, we have another podcast specifically on that. We talk about how to shape-shift and how to stay safe. Evil forces may be maligning him or his tribe, and for those who rely on him for protection. So when we talk about the shaman traveling to a different neighboring tribe or village and using the jaguar as a form of, protection in killing their enemies, in that sense, that is an aspect of what the relationship is. So for those who rely on him for protection, it's necessary to transform and cross over into the spirit realm. Again, we're looking at that shape-shifting. The jaguar is often chosen because it is a powerful friend and ally. So Peter First, who's an anthropologist at the University Museum in Philadelphia, commented, "In tropical America, jaguars were the shamans of the animal world, the alter ego of the shaman. They are the most powerful predators." So jaguar too is similar to a snake in that the alter ego of the shaman. They are the most powerful predators. So jaguar too is similar to a snake in that it possesses the transient ability to move between the worlds. It has comfort in the trees, has comfort in the water. Their ability to hunt equally at night as in the day, and their habit of sleeping in caves, places often associated with the deceased ancestors. The jaguar crosses between the worlds of day and night. The living and the earth is associated with the day, and the spirit world and the ancestors are associated with the night. As the jaguar is really at home in the darkness of night, the jaguar is also believed to be a part of the underworld or the lower world. Some of the aspects that you might find if you're looking up the Black Panther, one of their roles could be prophet. One of the lessons is reclaiming power. The elements that are often associated with them are fire and water, and it really refers to the quest within. Now, I want to read you a poem that somebody sent to me. I don't know who the author is, so if somebody knows who the author is and they know, please hit up the website Shaman's Way and let me know who wrote this. So it is specifically about the Black Panther. Sister of Artemis and guardian of the gateway between the known and the unknown, you prowl the night, bearing witness to the blackness that exists before the dawning of morning light. Blazing eyes pierce the veil of darkness of forgotten realms to bring consciousness to the unconscious. To follow your sleek and silent form as it glides as a spectral mist through those overgrown and tangled vines, we come to understand that even in the darkest of journeys, the illuminating rays of faith and acknowledgement will provide us with the light to guide us safely to the other side. There's a lot of mysticism that surrounds the Black Panther. And for centuries, those of us who have observed these graceful predators have seen them as vapor. They maneuver between the limbs of trees and the vines. Because of their penetrating yellow and green eyes, it's often closely linked to seers and to prophets. I work with the Black Jaguar. In fact, I have a tattoo on my back that is specifically for the Black Jaguar. The Black Jaguar has been one of my good friends in this lifetime. And she has been with me when I travel into the darker realms, into the realms where I do psychopomp work, which is the work of leading or guiding the souls of the dead to cross over. She has been a part of my body armor just before I do work. So when I've talked about merging with your authentic self before going into journeys or going into trance states. So one of the things that I do is I take my rattle. This is generally the process that I use to move from the mundane world into the spiritual world and make sure that my parameters and my safeties are set in place. I use my rattle and I call my authentic self to come close into me or to merge with me. And then I have guardians on my right and on my left side. And on my left side is where the Black Panther, the Black Jaguar, sits. And then I have another being which forms a circle around me that is pushed out if I don't want a spirit or an energy from someone that I'm working with to heal with come very close. And that animal also can come quite close to my personal space or my body space when I want that spirit or that healing or that message to come closer to my body. But the Black Jaguar has been a constant companion for me for seeing through the darkness, for seeing through the mystery. One of my favorite memories was we had come up a tall mountain and it was very black out, as one can imagine when you work with the Black Jaguar. And I had come to a black door on top of the mountain, and I tried pushing on it, and I tried shoving it, and I tried putting my weight into it, and nothing I could do would open it. And then the Jaguar looked at me and she said, "Why don't you just try knocking?" So I knocked on the door, and sure enough, the door opened. And so she has really been a spirit that helps me to be incredibly practical at times. Sometimes for me, the Jaguar is a she, and sometimes it is a he, and sometimes there is absolutely no gender, for it is just spirit. Much as the Noggle for our shamans in Mesoamerica or in South America, that overreaching deity, not particularly an animal, not particularly a spirit, but a deity. For the Jaguars in the Papaval, in the beginning stories for that area of the world, there are some that go back so far that say that the Jaguars were the original people, and it was through the manipulation of the Jaguars' bodies that they became human beings, or they sprouted forth human beings. So we have a really long history of that. When I also work with the Black Jaguar, it helps to for me to access that part of me that tries to see the future. Now, I'm not really big in trying to see the future. I'm really more concerned about trying to see what is going on in the here and the now. One of the reasons I don't try to see the future per se, more concerned about trying to see what is going on in the here and the now. One of the reasons I don't try to see the future per se is because I think if I and the person I'm speaking with can't handle what's going on right now, then the future can wait. We really need to deal with the here and the now. The Black Jaguar has really helped me to hone and use my eyes to figure out motives and actions. The Panther and the Jaguar have these abilities to pierce things. So I know that I've talked with some people who have a relationship as well with the Panther, and they are very good at doing prophetic readings and very good at warning people about what will happen to them should their current motives remain ulterior, selfish, or evasive. So the Black Panther for them represents a good portion of integrity and value and strength. The other aspect that I really like is that, they're amazing big cats. They have thick corded muscles, long sharp teeth and claws. They're capable of shredding and ripping prey that can weigh up to 1,200 pounds. So these magnificent creatures embody the essence of power. All of this is contained in a frame. Now, if we're looking at a jaguar, it's usually between 5 and 6 feet, and it usually weighs between, maybe about 55 to 95 kilograms. So when we look at the panther, though, which includes primarily the leopard from tip of nose to tip of tail, and they can weigh anywhere from 75 to 160 pounds or within those kilograms, depending on what species of the black panther, and also whether or not it's male or female. The jaguar, she walks beside me and gives me great inner strength. And it's also very evident of the personal power that I have that is represented within the Black Jaguar. So this manifests for me. If I merge with the Black Jaguar, my strength is different. My senses are more keen. My sense of hearing is more keen. My sense of smell is more keen. Some people even say that they have more charisma and they're quicker with their thoughts and their actions. For this reason, those people that have the spirit kin or the power animal of the Black Panther, they can carry a heavy responsibility, and that panther can follow them through various lives, and it takes several lifetimes to perfect some of the responsibility that the pure essence of the jaguar or the pure essence of the Black Panther will have. Energy awareness. Everything about the Black Panther has been geared towards a heightened awareness of his or her surroundings, and nature has equipped this huge, beautiful cat very well in the art of skill and survival. So their ears are capable of capturing even the smallest movement, eyes that can penetrate through the dark blanket of night, and a powerful sense of smell, all of which I've already indicated to you. But what that does is it helps to locate and track its prey. A skill matched by very few other predators in the wild. Yet there also seems to be an intuitive understanding of when the best time is to strike, as often these beautiful creatures will wait for the perfect moment and seize the opportunity with a lethal pounce. I was reading somebody's account of a jaguar, and there was a continuous camera in the jungle. And they noted one particular jaguar waited 18 hours in absolute stillness for the right moment to attack the animal that was coming through or along that path. And sure enough, it was successful in its hunt. But can you imagine staying still for 18 hours and maintaining their abilities? So in earth medicine, we recognize that there is a universal energy that flows through all things. As we talk about the interconnectedness of all things, the spirit that dwells within everything is, animated. That really comes from that animistic perception of life. Not the anthropomorphizing of animals, because sometimes I'm not really very comfortable with anthropomorphizing, meaning giving human characteristics and human thoughts to animals. I don't always like that, and I think it's really strongly we anthropomorphize animals, especially if we're fighting for animal rights. So instead of calling a calf, we call it a baby. Instead of calling a cow, we call it a mother or a mama. So we attempt to elicit feelings based on anthropomorphizing a particular animal. However, that's a whole other topic that I'm not going to get into with this. So if you have a Black Panther as your companion spirit, are you able to sense the feelings, the energies, or any of the intent of people around you? The ability to read another's energy so precisely that it is imperative that the soul whom the Black Panther walks with governs this ability closely. And the reason I say this is because sometimes I like to deeply read a person's energy, but I have to do this with absolute integrity, because when you have a skill of deep penetration, there are things that you may or may not find out, may or may not experience that are off limits to you. And I've run into people over the years who have talked about being not really being comfortable in the same room with me because they're not always sure what I'm reading or how deeply I can read. And one of the things that I tell people is that if your mind doesn't want me to know it, I'll never know it. There are lots of things that we've locked away in our psyche and in our unconscious self that simply are not available to me unless you've specifically given me permission to do that. And that would be through a journey, that would be through an energetic reading. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who's listening to this who has very heightened awareness of humans around them and the ability to see through them, into them, and read them. The Black Jaguar, she has really enabled me to see more of that. When I am in the spirit world, I had this very interesting experience. One time I was doing a journey and somebody else was drumming, and we were stalking. I love stalking and tracking. Using the jaguar is one of my favorite animals to use because of their incredible keen senses. But the person who was doing the drumming for the circle went around to each person and drummed over top of each person's head during the journey. And the jaguar, perfect to cat form, as soon as it thought that it was discovered, it hunkered down and it hid. And I recall in the journey that the jaguar and I both crouched really low on the ground and hid deep into the grasses so that we couldn't be. That journey was, as soon as the drum went over top of us, the jaguar and I were traveling in complete darkness. And the spot of light came above my face and above my eyes during the journey, and it was the drum over top of my body was shining like a sunlight, but it only had a direct beam, kind of like a direct beam of a flashlight. It didn't illuminate the entire darkness, but it illuminated where we could be or where we could have been. It was very, very fascinating to observe. Working also with the panther or the jaguar, I also work with trance postures. And I have on the website, Shaman's Way, I have a book that is a book review that is specifically about trance postures, Belinda Gore's trance postures. And there are two very powerful jaguar trance postures, Belinda Gore's trance postures. And there are two very powerful jaguar postures, which I've done in circles. And the standing jaguar posture is probably the most powerful posture I have encountered in my entire life. As soon as I stood and stepped into that posture and held that posture, I literally felt like I moved between the worlds. It was almost as though literally opening the door from the mundane into the world of the sacred, into the spirit world, and poof, the journey was right there. The intensity was right there. And trance postures, which I love and am a very large supporter of doing them as often as you can, I know that for some people they're very difficult to get into, they're very difficult to have experiences, and yet for other people that's not the case. The standing jaguar posture is also crouching jaguar posture. If you get an opportunity to try them, I would strongly suggest that you do them, and usually trance postures are only held for about 7 or 8 minutes, and you can hold them longer, you can hold them shorter. Some of them are very challenging to physically hold. Some of them require incredible leg strength, stamina on the arms, the upper back, whatever the case may be. I'm not trying to dissuade you from doing it. I'm simply just saying to you, hey, this could be an experience of yours. You may have some problem doing it. But I would really encourage you to look up the Jaguar postures, perhaps even purchase one of those books for yourself. Turn the rattle track on that's available on the site and do a trance posture and do a journey specifically for yourself, because it is, why not? Like, seriously, why not? Like, literally threw me from one world into the other. So the Black Jaguar and the Panther is a shapeshifter. And not every animal is a shapeshifter. And I think that the Panther has a really unique responsibility. It's piercing the veils of darkness that dwell in the heart and the mind of the unintegrated soul, which is basically all of us. Unless we've reached a point where all of our soul pieces are home and we're not trying to heal or illuminate ourselves, I think we're all unintegrated souls, or less integrated souls, or moderately integrated souls maybe. The Black Panther, it teaches us that there is nothing in the darkness to be feared, for the light of acknowledgement will disperse the blackness. And truly, I know this sounds dorky, but it illuminates the way through the jungle of unresolved issues, pain, and old programming. When we walk with the Black Panther, it's never really going to be easy, because we seem to attract or elicit strong reactions, both within us as well as from others. And as I said earlier, some people don't like to sit across the table from me or be in a room with me because they have a strong assumption that I'm piercing through them. And when I am merged with a particular animal, and there are a number that shapeshift with me and who lend me their physical attributes. So at times my eyes can be incredibly piercing. I don't necessarily know it. However, people have commented and come back. And I think that is because I've spent years shape-shifting. I've spent years trying to transform myself from one being into the other, to walk through the veil of darkness, and to disperse from one being into the other, to walk through the veil of darkness, and to disperse myself or become one with the blackness and illuminate my own way. There's no doubt that panthers and people who work with panthers are powerful with deep loyalties. They're very strong animals, and they're very solitary creatures. I know that after I've done work with the panther, I'm very solitary after, where if I do work with my lions are pride animals. They're the only cat that actually lives in a group, except for family groups, because cheetahs can live for brief periods of time within family groups. But jaguars and leopards are incredibly quiet and very, very much are already a person who is incredibly introverted, who doesn't have a lot of relationship with other people, perhaps then trying to find perhaps a more social power animal or a more social spirit kin may be a good idea for you. Some of the key words that I have learnt with the Black Jaguar is acceptance, relinquishing control, wisdom, and shape-shifting. So sometimes I have had experiences, one of the most powerful experiences I've had for my own personal healing, my own personal self, was I turned into a predatory power animal and chased myself. And the predatory power animal that I turned into was the Black Jaguar. And the Black Jaguar chased me as myself. And I know I've talked about this before, and how challenging it can be to have your consciousness in one area and your consciousness in another area. But the power of being a predator and chasing down me, who is the prey, and killing me as the predator, as the prey, boy, oh boy, did that ever open me up to some huge changes and to some very strong acknowledgments of myself, and actually really helped to free me from some of the issues and the shadows of the past that had truly held me very, very deep. So the contrary medicine of the Black Panther is sometimes, if it's activated, can be unchecked. There can be the shadow aspect of it would be a deep-seated. Sometimes if it's activated, can be unchecked. There can be the shadow aspect of it would be a deep-seated rage or a self-hatred. And that can manifest in violent outbursts of emotion. The anger will be directed normally within rather than towards other loved ones. If it's a shadow part of it, self-retribution can manifest as still greater complications. So then the more the shadow operates from a sense of frustration or rage at their powerlessness, the more immobilized the physical body becomes. And I think that's what mine was really representing to me, was that I felt powerless. I literally felt as though I released freedom from myself. When I relinquished control and allowed the predator self to kill the prey self within me, that's when huge shifts began to change. I began to realize what were my own demons, what were my own fears, what was my sense of betrayal, what was my powerlessness. And the wisdom uncovered from that experience, it shape-shifted my soul with strength, with compassion, with knowledge. And I then was able to step forward into a new area of my life, into a new strength in myself, into a new beauty for myself. So working with the Black Panther, the Black Jaguar, certainly has its own benefits. The Jaguar's wisdom, some of the wisdom includes seeing the roads within chaos. She's very good with me in that regard. We can find our way through some of the deepest jungles and deepest forests without any issue at all. The Black me to stand back and look at chaos as much as Snake has. Snake has also really been a powerful spirit to help me watch and look at the patterns of chaos. Jaguar's wisdom also helps me with moving without fear in the darkness. And as I told you earlier, it works with me regarding facilitating soul work or psychopomp. The Black Panther has other wisdoms. It has some of the same wisdoms of Jaguar, but the Black Panther, remember that panther, which refers to all of the animals or all the big cats that have melanism. They're often associated with astral travel. Now, I've heard that from other people. I'm very comfortable with astral travel because I simply don't have a lot of experience with it. Not that I think it's evil, not that I think it's bad or anything along those lines. It just has never drawn my attention. It really isn't something that I practiced a lot. Black Panther is that guardian energy. And as we learned earlier, very early on today when we were chatting, is that the feline has long been associated with the goddess, and the statue from Turkey of the leopards that were supporting the birthing woman. And then we have the statues of half jaguar, half human. So we see it as being that shape-shifting power. Both the Jaguar and the Black Panthers have an interesting understanding of death. Both are responsible for reclaiming your power and your ability to know the dark, so that death and that rebirth. The Black Jaguar has been a very interesting companion over the years, and I had a situation, an experience, I'm not quite sure what to call it, maybe 3 months ago, journeying where the Black Jaguar, she shape-shifted or perhaps manifested as her true self in another spirit. And she told me that I wouldn't be seeing her anymore in the Black Jaguar form. So that I'm not really quite sure how to work with that. I haven't worked with that a lot yet. So I haven't really talked about that either. So you, dear listeners, are the first ones that I'm hypothesizing this with. I think that in working with this particular spirit, in working with the Jaguar, I have learned a great deal about my own inner wisdom, my own inner strength, my ability to look out past others. There's even more bullshit. And the effect also of being a very kind and compassionate being. The feline, the female of most big cats are very, very good mothers. They can be a little harsh mothers, but they're very good, they're very kind, they're very conscientious. For instance, when a pride of lions is taken over by a new male lion, the very first thing that the male lion will do is kill all of the cubs. So the mother will take her daughters and the cubs that she has with her and will leave the pride and strike out on her own, knowing that what she is carrying, if she's pregnant or if her cubs are very little, that they're going to be killed. So we leave the safety of a group in order to be protective of that which is vulnerable, that which we have that is vulnerable. And we can even apply that to our own lives in how do we protect ourselves when the alpha energy, and I just don't mean from a male perspective, but the alpha energy comes into our life, or a strong energy that is dangerous. How do we remove ourselves from a situation and protect ourselves? Cats, panthers, jaguars, they're very stealth. They're incredible stalkers and tracking. I know that I've talked about stalking and tracking in a number of podcasts and also in some of the articles that I've written for Shaman's Way. And maybe I'll devote, more time to it in the future, but I would like to leave our time today with the understanding that you have the ability to shapeshift. You can move yourself with the help and the grace of an animal such as the Black Panther to move more gracefully through this world. And the reason that we study medicine, the reason that we study shamanism, the reason that we study other forms of spirituality is to connect with our own self and the world around us. And cats, whether they're domestic or whether they're wild, have a very, not always, but generally have a very good sense of self-awareness and awareness around them. So I leave you with that, and I hope that you practice your self-awareness and have a most pleasant rest of your day. And thank you for listening.
Thank you again for joining us here on the Shaman's Way podcast. If you have any questions, would like to make a request for a future episode, or if you're looking for other shamanic resources, including free drumming tracks, please visit us at shamansway.net. Until the next episode, be well, everyone.